It's pretty strange looking back that they added an Earthbound character to Smash 64, and to be honest, I'm pretty thankful for it. Ness must have been a really obscure pick considering he's from a relatively niche franchise. Maybe it didn't do the best commercially, but Ness was still added in Smash 64, and honestly it was a miracle because it was probably a big reason why he was kept around for so long was because he was added all the way back then. Now Ness is one of the few characters we all know they considered cutting actually for Smash not just once, but twice, which is really strange because I'm not gonna lie, he's a mainstay character at this point, and cutting a Smash 64 rep, in my opinion, is like blasphemy. Ness was actually considered being cut in Melee and be replaced by Lucas because Mother 3 was actually going to come out in the 64 at the time, but then that game went into development hell and it wasn't coming out anytime soon, so they changed their mind and actually went back to Ness as the only Mother character in Melee. In Brawl, he was actually considered being cut again, which would have made me a really depressed kid, as Ness was one of my favorite characters even back then. Could you imagine Subspace Emissary without Ness? His arc with Lucas would not exist at all, and the stuff with King Dedede and Luigi? Yeah, that would probably be gone too. They ultimately decided against cutting him again and actually brought in Lucas as well, which is funny because Lucas was supposed to replace Ness, but now they're both here, so I guess he dodged a bullet twice. Don't ever try cutting Ness again, okay, please. Ness is a projectile zoner character with a high amount of punish game, and many of his moves are high risk, high reward, and even have elements of being a grappler, but that part is really depending on the game. His throw follow-ups can be rather devastating for their combo potential and even having some of the best KO throws in a lot of these Smash games. Ness is actually my main and I really love this style of character. I've played him in every single Smash game. I main him pretty much even when he's bad. And okay, maybe not every single Smash game, sometimes he's just really bad. I do really enjoy his moveset done correctly, Project M, but maybe another time for that. Now Ness in Smash has had many ups and downs as a character, and we're going to go through all of them here. So make sure to subscribe and thank you so much. Check out the Patreon down below if you guys want to support the channel. Let me know what future characters you guys want to see. Ness in 64 is a small character with pretty average stats, and if you look closely at Ness's character model, you might be thinking, gee, Ness does kind of look like somebody. And if you're asking this question, it's actually because it's true. Ness's model in 64 is actually an edited version of Mario's model. It's the standard thing in 64, as many of the unlockable characters, which Ness being one of them, they all share aspects from another character that is in the cast, like Captain Falcon sharing a lot of elements from Samus, Luigi sharing a lot from Mario, and Puff sharing plenty of Kirby's animations. And lastly, Ness actually shares from Mario as well. Ness has a high double jump and a lot of advanced techniques like double jump canceling, which was only existing in 64 and Melee, where Ness can cancel his aerial momentum with an attack. It is actually integral to Ness's combo game, especially in this game. This is a must if you ever plan on maining Ness. And Ness is a projectile zoner with a high punish game, so many of his moves are deadly if they connect with the strongest hits. Look at things like his down air, for example. This move meteors off stage, and many of his moves have fast startup like his tilts, his aerials, and these are staples to his combo game, while having some rather unique aspects like his kill throws and high knockback aerials, beefy smash attacks. Some of his strongest moves are really good at KOing. His jab is a 3-hit combo attack. It's very reminiscent of Mario Luigi's. There's also F-tilts where Ness leans his foot forward and does a spinning kick, and it can be angled upward or downward or straight. It does have a bit of end lag on it though, but it's a decent spacing tool. Ness's up tilt is actually his premier juggling tool in this game. As placing his palms together, it does an uppercut that leads into any double jumped canceled aerial you want to think of, which is a great setup tool for him in this game. And down tilt is a fast kick attack that Ness can again spam over and over and over because of its low amounts of end lag, although it doesn't have a lot of range. Ness can set up any grab into this move. Dash attack is actually a solid move for building space. Forward smash is a bat swing, it is an excellent KO tool, and it can even be a reflector. Up smash and down smash are both yo-yo attacks, and up smash is actually a tool for anti-airing, but it's overall a pretty average attack. Down smash goes at a downward angle and it covers a significant amount of range in this game. It is actually one of the longest range down smashes in 64. Neutral air is a sex kick. Again, don't ask me why people call it that, but just know that every single character in Smash 64 has a move like this. And this is the only time Ness ever had this move, so it gets completely replaced in Melee. The move is actually a pretty solid attack for escaping out of pressure. Forward air is another similar animation-wise to actually his dash attack, but the move is a strong tool for spacing and racking up percent. And back air is an excellent tool, especially if you want to kill. It's really beefy. It's also borrowing from Mario and Luigi again. Even the hitboxes are actually exactly the same, so that's how much crunch there was for Ness. Up air is actually a strong premier tool for juggling, as Ness is actually invincible during this attack. I don't even know why, don't ask me, but it's insanely good in this game. Ness is intangible for the first 4 active frames. The hitbox is huge, and it has the ability to combo for Ness, especially when being double jump canceled. But even the move can kill too, so there's that. It is a great tool in his kit for racking up damage, although it gets nerfed really hard in melee. Fun fact, in the Japanese version, it is even stronger. Ness's entire moveset is just a lot better in the Japanese version. Downer is active for a very long period of time, which means its hitbox lingers longer than you expect it to. And I mean, just look at this. So the stomp deals 15% and the move comes out at frame 4, making it one of the fastest down airs in the game. Ness only has 2 grab inputs, as every character does in this game. Back throw and forward throw are potential KO throws. His 3 special moves are PK Fire, which is a bolt of lightning. I'm sure we all know what this move is going to do. It travels forward at an angle, and it can travel diagonally if you use it in the air. If it touches the opponent, it will explode with a pillar of fire, and it deals several hits. DIing out of this move is integral if you want to escape out of Ness's potential combo throws. It is actually the second strongest damage-wise version of PK Fire. Down special is PSI Magnet. This move is pretty bad in this game. It only heals energy-based projectiles, and it has no hitbox at all, so don't even try to use this as like a combo tool. It's not there yet. To be honest, this move is just, it has high startup. If you hate fighting against Ness, you probably hate this move. Up special consists of 2 iterations of the attack, PK Thunder 1 and 2. PK Thunder 1 is just a stream of electricity that Ness can control. However, it can't move while he's using any attacks. It's important to use this move carefully, as Ness can be easily punished if he does it wrong. And if he hits somebody, you deal 3 to 6%. But PK Thunder 2 can be activated by looping the PK Thunder in a circle back at Ness, and it will launch him forward. It is an insanely strong tool if someone tries to contest it. The move is probably one of the trickiest recoveries in the whole game, effectively because of its high amount of likelihood of things going wrong. But if Ness misses and he's off stage, he actually is going to die, or if someone hits him before he's able to connect to the PK Thunder, he's dead. And actually grabbing ledge with this move is harder than it probably looks, especially in future games. PK Thunder maybe is not the best recovery tool, but if you hit the opponent with its hitbox, it's actually pretty massive in this game, and it KOs extremely early. Now, Ness in Smash 64 had the strangest tier list development, as Ness was actually predicted to be a top tier character in the very first tier list for the game. He was ranked at 3rd place, right below Kirby and Pikachu. Pikachu and Kirby both being the best characters in the game, and they're actually still at the top to this day, while Ness fell off, which is rather strange. Now, why did he fall off? Well, it's because Ness's premier combo games, especially when double jump canceled, are actually good at racking up damage, like I mentioned earlier, and Ness's strong burst options took him far in the meta. However, the weaknesses of the character became very apparent, and these weaknesses really destroyed the character's viability to this day. In general, Ness has a lot of problems with his range. It's one of the clear weaknesses of his archetype. His strongest moves require him to scrap in order to gain percent, and while at times many of his moves have high risk, high reward to them, and plenty of them have a lot of end lag, this alone made Ness fall off the tier list rather dramatically, to being a top tier to all the way to being a low tier. And now, being a low tier in 64 is not bad at all. You're still a viable character, but it's far from the heights of being the top 3 best character in the game. Not only that, but Ness's highs were nerfed even further in the future iterations of the game, like the transition from the Japanese version to the NTSC version. His KO power was significantly nerfed, making his moves deal less damage, having a bigger presence of SDI so it was easier to escape out of his combos. Some of his moves have massive hitbox reductions, like PK Thunder 2. Even having less invincibility and is a lot weaker, and up air has less knockback scaling and has a smaller hitbox. PK Fire doesn't travel nearly as far, and up smash has an angle change, and it makes it easier to DI out of this move, making it kill a lot later. Now, when it came to melee, he gained new special moves and also some throws, like every other 64 character did. Every single character got 2 new throw inputs, down throw and up throw, and then a new special input being side special. Ness's PK Fire, that was a neutral special, was moved to side special, and now he has a new attack being PK Flash. which is now on neutral special, which is a high risk, high reward move that does a crazy amount of damage and knockback if linked properly. It should be noted it is extremely difficult to hit because of its high amount of startup lag and its rather limiting angle that it comes out at. It is probably one of the riskiest moves in all of Melee. If you get a hard read with it though, it can be rather rewarding, but you don't want to mess up while using it, especially off stage. If you somehow use it, you die. I don't get it, but whatever. Ness's new throws are actually strong combo tools for the character, like, up throw being good against spacies and down throw being a strong tool against heavyweights. And Ness is doing a different iteration of PK Fire for his down throw, fun fact. Melee Ness was significantly nerfed. This was most likely done because of his early strides in the 64 meta, or possibly Sakurai hard reading that Ness was secretly decent. I don't really get why they nerfed him so hard, but they did. And seriously, he's not good in this game. No matter how hard people try, he's pretty bad. And I'm saying this as somebody who has tried to play this character. I know you can say he's slightly better in the tier list. He's a couple spots higher, but being bottom 3 in 64 is not nearly as bad as being bottom 5 in Melee. And the reason why is, well, Ness being a low tier in both games, Ness still has some of the same flaws and aspects that he had in Melee and 64, but I feel like it's a bit of a crisis era for the character competitively because his recovery is still awful, arguably worse in Melee. PK Thunder comes out at a stiff angle and not having any mobility to the move, and this is also a strange attack to balance because it's not really a good recovery tool in this game, as Ness has to move PK Thunder in the correct direction in order to recover, which takes longer than any other recovery in the game. And so the trade-off is, well, you actually get a really powerful attack that had a massive hitbox. Since its hitbox size has been reduced even further, it's not even that rewarding in Melee, and the move has terrible amounts of startup and end lag, and if you miss, yeah, I hope you don't miss with this move, which actually makes it easier to edgeguard Ness than ever before. And sometimes you do have to watch out for the early startup frames when the move is its strongest, but if you play around it, you can easily punish Ness for attempting to use his basic recovery tool. Or even smarter, just wait for Ness to mess up, as this move is known for bouncing off of walls on the stage, especially just missing the ledge entirely. Of course, a well-known option is also just jumping on the PK Thunder Jolt and instantly KOing Ness. This is easily one of the hardest to use recoveries in the game, and I think it's one of the worst that he's ever had in the series. It does have a small amount of positives, but it's not helping him considering this has been nerfed since 64. And his other special moves are on par, having a lot of the same issues, like having high startup and end lag. And many of his moves were made even worse, like PK Fire only got a couple tiny buffs to its duration and its startup, even traveling slightly further, but it's really laggy in this game still, and its hitbox sizes are actually smaller than in Melee compared to 64. And I made this comparison in the past, but I don't understand why they made Ness's down special so terrible. It has no hitbox, 10 extra frames of end lag, which makes no sense because Fox and Falco Shine not only reflects projectiles, but it comes out at frame 1, and it also is one of the best moves in the whole series because it has a really good hitbox for comboing. Yet Ness's only absorbs energy-based projectiles. It's slower than both of the spacies by a lot, and this is absolutely a terrible move in my opinion. Ness's KO power is also pretty bad. Some of his moves have decent amounts, while others are some of the laggiest moves in his moveset, and they come with an extreme cost. His smash attacks are supposed to be the strongest moves in his moveset, but they're just not good. The truth is, Ness's forward smash is a decent KO tool, although they nerfed its KO power and it has more lag than the 64 iteration. His other smash attacks are some of the worst smash attacks in the game, still known for their lag and also having terrible amounts of range, and they both don't even KO until roughly 200+%, depending on the character of course. These smash attacks are significantly nerfed from 64 as they have less range, less KO power, shorter durations, and these attacks are pretty laughable in comparison. The range problem is still a major issue for Ness as a whole. His moveset has just got too much end lag on it. He has range issues, meaning he has to scrap in order to gain percent, but the problem is his grab is actually too laggy to really use his grappler elements to his advantage, and many of his moves are actually weaker in Melee. In my opinion, this is such a fundamental failure of Ness's archetype. Even his jump squat is a frame slower in Melee, which is just going to hurt his approaches from getting off the ground. And because of how else is he supposed to build percent when his moves have so much lag and they don't even have competent amounts of range? You can't even kill with them. I mean, you can, but you know what I'm trying to say here. It's just not on the same level as the top tiers. The Marth matchup is god-awful, as this is one of the reasons why Ness's best options are just too up close, and his aerials and tilts are just not good enough. Up tilt is still a nice combo tool, down tilt actually slightly faster in melee by a frame, and while dash attack has got increased lag, it also got a nice damage buff, but his tools are just not that good. You can still double jump cancel in melee, which is still an integral part of his combo game like it was in 64. His up air is nerfed, a lot of his moves are nerfed, so take that for a grain of salt. All of his aerials have been significantly nerfed, having plenty more lag on them, and they even auto-cancel later, except for gnar, which is a pretty decent nerf considering how they were used a lot in 64, and they were pretty much staples to his combo game in that game. Back air is by far one of his best KO tools, at least we're talking aerial wise, and down air while having plenty more startup, which is actually a pretty direct nerf on how good this move was previously, but you can still do stomp combos with it in melee, but it's definitely a lot more risky. His gnar is similar to Peach's gnar, they actually have the same exact animation, so this is actually a pretty integral tool in his kit if you want to escape out of pressure. It still has awful range though. They did buff its damage and startup and end lag, and even slight range improvements. One of the things Ness has going for him is he has a very strange advanced technique that only exists in melee. And this tech is called the Thunder Jacket. I remember Ness's terrible up smash and down smashes, some of the worst smash attacks in the whole game. Well, if you manage to hit the charged up smash and down smash and survive, there is a rare chance that you can actually hit the opponent with a frame 6 to 11 up smash and frame 12 for a down smash. You get a hitbox that can be manipulated on the field, and you can essentially make that hitbox become a handful of Ness's moves in this kit, where you can make the jacket become his back throw, for example, or PK Thunder 2, or back air, you get the point. While some people are extremely optimistic about this tool, it does have some uses, I won't lie, if you can actually use it. It is rather unique and I think it's really cool. But not to burst anybody's parade, it is on one of the worst smash attacks in the game, and you actually have to get lucky to correctly hit somebody with the frame perfect jacket to get on the field. It is a really difficult tool to activate, and it's really because of Ness's awful range. So it's easier said than done, and don't get me wrong, there's plenty of potential here, but just know the amount of hoops you have to jump through in order to use it and put it out on the field initially is just too much, I think. So this is why Ness is seen as a low to mid-tier character in Melee's early days, but people were more optimistic about Ness early on. Unfortunately, that didn't last long term because Ness is actually an extremely rare character to see in the meta because just his laundry list of flaws. It's an awful matchup against many characters in the cast, and I'm saying that as someone who has tried to pocket Ness for fun. Many characters can DI out of his attacks and punish him, Peach and Puff for example, or you can have awful matchups where Ness can't even get in because he doesn't have these significant amounts of range like Marth or Sheik or Falcon. And while there is some glimmers of hope with his niche combo strings on the Spaceys or heavyweight characters for example, many of these characters still have better frame data than him and easily can dismantle him. And when Ness wants to get the kill, he's just gonna struggle to do that. It's a rough day for Ness. He literally got nerfed in many areas and he's harder to use. So this is why Ness is ranked at 23rd in the D tier. Now when it came to transitioning to Brawl, this is when Ness actually began to turn some things around, and thank God, honestly. Ness was 2 for 2 for being one of the worst characters of the game. Okay, right, Ganondorf? Okay, no, sorry. Ganondorf will be another day, of course, but while I don't want to say this is the best iteration of Ness, it definitely isn't the worst, but there is some interesting things going for him here, but there's also some more flaws too. So stay tuned for that. Ness is fundamentally the same character with powerful high-risk, high-reward attacks, but he has been buffed and nerfed at the same time. Unfortunately, double jump canceling has been removed. However, his aerials were improved beyond this. His aerials have a lot less lag. Ness's recovery is still poor, but is actually significantly more powerful and has less end lag, and this is honestly what this should have been in Melee. PK Fire is better at trapping, meaning it can be fundamentally used as a strong zoning tool now. Again, thank God, it was way too laggy before. Magnet actually now has a weak hitbox when released, which is not crazy, but it is a step in the right direction, giving it a little bit of utility. Ness actually can cancel out of the move when it absorbs a projectile, and thankfully his grabs have less startup and more range. This is another major problem that was thankfully looked at. And while Thunder Jacket and the Yo-Yo glitch have been removed, both up smash and down smash have significantly more KO power this time around. And up smash is actually one of the weakest smash attacks in the game still though, but keep in mind, there's actually a bug that was added where Ness's smash attacks don't actually increase in KO power or damage when they're charged. I don't know why, but it is what it is. The only reason I say this is a bug is because it makes absolutely no sense, and Ness's smash attacks are the only ones in the game that have this problem. I guess they're still bad to this day. Yo-Yo cannot catch a break, guys, okay? Down tilt is better at racking up damage, and there's actually a small chance you can trip with the move now. And even the improved spot dodge is a nice buff, an increased duration. Ness is one of the few characters in the game that has a bug where his grab release animation has an extra 10 frames of lag. And the reason why this is a problem is because this means that characters can easily abuse this by simply grabbing Ness, pummeling him, and then letting him go, and then rinse and repeat, grabbing him again. You get the point. This is an absolute problem for the character. It doesn't help that in Brawl's meta, many of the characters in the cast have chain grabs, and Ness really hates dealing with this stuff, as he can't escape out of many of them. So Ness actually has some clear defensive issues that he's never had in any other game, and he still has a lot of the same problems that has been pretty trademarked to Ness at this point. And you could argue his KO power and combos are hindered by many of Brawl's defensive mechanics like hits on canceling. These things just started to work against Ness. He still has a flawed recovery. His range is pretty average. Even though it's been improved in Melee, you could argue it's pretty bad. While originally being seen as one of the worst characters in the game, once people found the 10 plus frames of grab release, this easily made Ness a hard character to main because of just him being bullied by this exploit. People who did give Ness a try and tried to push him further in the meta noticed that he did have improved KO power, range, and recovery. While these things have been made better, it should be noted that they are still flaws to him in Brawl. There's plenty of other characters who have a lot better range than him. He did rise higher in the tier list, and he has earned his placement as being as a mid to low tier character depending on who you ask. He actually has some strange niches in certain matchups, like Olimar for example. It really goes to show how bad a couple of bugs though can mess up a character, and I feel like if Ness didn't have this going on for him, especially the 10 frames of extra grab release frames, he would easily go up a couple spots in my opinion. Now the thing about Ness in Smash 4 is he's actually did improve quite a bit from the past iterations of the character. Many of the bugs from Brawl have been patched out, thankfully. The grab release frames and also these smash attacks being fixed. Now they do a consistent amount of damage and knockback when charged. But on top of that, things kept improving for the character, not just placement wise, but even some moveset flaws have actually been addressed finally. Ness's grab game has been improved. It is now one of the best grab games in the game. Having a down throw that was a premier combo tool, its angle has been buffed to improve Ness's combo game, so down throw into forward air is a actually really easy combo in this game, with its hitbox sizes actually being increased and actually being a competent tool for comboing and KOing. And grabbing ledge is actually a lot easier in Smash 4, and this benefited characters like Ness, who has a risky recovery still. Chain grabbing doesn't exist in this game, so Ness doesn't have to worry about that anymore. His yo-yo smash attacks have improved KO power and speed, and they even have a semi-spike hitbox now. Dash attack has increased hitbox sizes and they can actually KO now. His walk and dash speed has been improved. His forward smash has been transformed to one of the strongest forward smashes in the game. His grab range is no longer one of the shortest grab ranges, and PK Flash has increased mobility. Thank God, this move has been asking for this for years. And you can actually use it more effectively as a niche attack for edge guarding. PK Fire can actually travel further, and but they traded it for more end lag. PK Thunder has massive improvements to its size. It is a lot bigger now. It's harder to avoid, has less end lag. It actually travels at a tighter angle, so it makes it easier to connect into PK Thunder 2. And Magnet got some nice buffs, increasing its range and giving it less end lag, and actually make it a more usable tool. It had way too much end lag in the previous game, so thank God they changed that. It's still missing something, but wait until Smash Ultimate. Up air and down air have slightly altered animations, but Ness did get some direct nerfs too. His aerials got increased end lag. Down air especially is a lot weaker in this game. It's harder to hit with. He got some damage nerfs. Down throw is still a solid tool. Its increased knockback hinders its utility at higher percents. He's leagues better compared to the past iterations of the character. The buffs balance out the nerfs in this game. And because of this, Ness is seen a lot more in the meta compared to these past iterations, and it really just showed that Ness is actually a decent character. But he did get nerfed in some balance patches, giving him more end lag on PK Fire, reduced damage on down throw. Special moves have more lag and are not as good on shield. He does have a faster down special. Down air has a larger hitbox and it lasts longer. In competitive play, Ness was actually able to be more of a character this time around, and people actually gave him a fair shake, as he doesn't have silly bugs or as many flaws holding him down. The buffs to his combo game especially were premier options for his character. You're going to see a lot of down throw into forward air. Ness was seen as a high to top tier character in the early days, which is actually kind of crazy that he was that popular. He was in a lot of top 8 tournaments where people were actually saying that he was actually finally good, right? Ness was improved. Unfortunately, this didn't last for long, as yes, a little bit of an ironic thing. The exact same thing happened in Smash 64, happened in Smash 4. His flaws still being a part of his character, like his terrible range, lackluster KO power but not nearly as bad, and obviously his recovery. We could even go further by saying characters in Smash 4 love absorbing projectiles and using them against Ness, which was not something that was as much of a problem in previous games. So Rosalina and Villager, for example, were really bad matchups for him. And because one of the best characters in the game being Rosalina, oh yeah, that was a bad thing for him. He also has terrible range to this day. Many of the top tier characters have amazing amounts of range, especially the DLC characters. Ness was just wedged out of being a top tier and is simply seen as a mid tier, but I wouldn't count out the character. There has been some actually pretty promising tournament placements with the character still being able to hang on to this day in the C tier at 28. Now Ultimate improved Ness majorly. It really shows that a bunch of quality of life changes could go a long way. His ground game has been improved significantly, having a forward tilt that became a solid KO tool. His dash attack has increased knockback, up tilt has less knockback and also makes it better for comboing. Now regain their charging hitboxes that they had in Smash 64, and this actually makes them a better tool for KOing. Up smash and down smash have regained their charging hitboxes, and they're significantly more powerful than before. Up smash is actually a KO tool now, which I mean, who would have thought? Aerials deal more damage, down air has improved range, PK Flash charges quickly and no longer puts Ness in freefall, and the move comes out at a different angle. PK Fire is a much stronger tool for comboing, PK Thunder deals more damage, Magnet was massively buffed as the move now has a hitbox, and this made Ness a fundamentally more mobile flow in the meta, as now he has improved combo game because of it, and also his KO potential has been improved. He also has some more niche quality of life stuff, like if he uses PK Thunder 2 and then bounces off a wall, he can use it again in niche situations. I actually didn't even know this was a thing. In Ultimate, it's actually a lot easier. Essentially use PK Thunder a second time in niche situations. His recovery also has more frames of intangibility. It travels further. His recovery is improved because Magnet is actually a decent tool this time around and it's less laggy. His KO potential is a lot better. Forward air deals more damage. There's more knockback scaling to the final hit. Back air has more range, down air has less startup and lasts longer and it deals more damage. Up air is a new move where Ness's hands will deal 5 hits, and the move actually lasts for a longer period than it did before and it deals even more damage and knockback. But the move has less horizontal range, is quite a bit more laggy than before. But the angle change is rewarding as you can KO with it. His grabs are mostly unchanged, although his grab and dash animation have more frames of end lag, and back throw has actually slightly less KO potential in this game. Up throw is slightly more damage and down throw launches opponents earlier. I like how they actually gave PK Flash the buff that this move was asking for years, as they took it from being a really weird tool in Melee to actually being something you could consistently edgeguard with. And some Project M ideas are actually in Ultimate Ness, like Magnet having a hitbox. As the updates have went by, Ness had a mix of buffs and nerfs. His auto cancel frames were increased, along with his down air and up air receiving knockback buffs. Yo-Yo shield damage was actually toned down. Yes, this move could break shields in its early updates. A little crazy, I know. This move had a real glow up. But he also received some buffs too. But how did these things affect him in the meta? In competitive play, Ness had a major improvement in placements. Ness was actually a strong enough character to compete in top 8s, and he was actually a really popular character too, and he remained as a competent character in the online era because of the obvious reasons of, you know, PK Fire spam, am I right? No. And even the online era, he claimed to be a top 20 character by a lot of people, although it was truly when the later DLC characters were added where Ness had a bit of a fall off compared to the later eras, as a lot of these DLC characters were top tiers, and many of them have strong positive matchups against Ness, and they actually invalidate him by being stronger zoners than him like Min Min or Steve, for example. Sword characters became the name of the game in Ultimate, and many of these characters are known for their absolute just Ness kryptonite because they have way more range than him. So Ness ended up being in the B tier at 40th, and his placements will go lower in the B-, showing that he still has a lot of the same problems that have plagued his character to this very day. Now Ness has remained as an underrated character in some people's eyes, while some people think he just doesn't cut it anymore as a zoner. He's not a bad version of the character, it simply shows Ultimate's meta has really evolved. Now the worst version of Ness is the melee iteration, by far. I stated this earlier, so without me just stomping on my toes again, Ness has lost a lot of his KO power range that he had access to in 64, and even his combo game too. A lot of his moves are more laggier, they're less safe. Many of his smash attacks are absolutely just terrible across the board. Some of the worst smash attacks in the series probably are Ness's up smash and down smash. Being a bottom tier character in Melee is just a lot worse than being a bottom tier in 64, so he is pretty bad in both games. But at least in 64 you could say he had higher highs and he's maybe underrated in some people's eyes. But just many things I wish were fixed in the Melee iteration never got looked at. His terrible grab inputs, terrible recovery that's known for bouncing off the stage. His range is just not good enough to compete with many of the top tiers, which is why he's in the bottom of the D tier. Jacket is a really neat thing for Melee Ness. Yes, he does have that thing going for him, but it's too niche to really set up properly with any consistent use. Ness had quite a fall in 64 compared to being a top tier in the early days. He is at least a somewhat usable character in the right hands though. And the roster in this game is a lot closer than you'd think. So I feel like Ness, despite him being a quote unquote low tier, he's not as bad as, being a low tier in Melee. His double jump cancel combos are definitely a staple for the character in this game. And also should be noted that these tools were at their peak in this game. I know I can't help myself when it comes to bringing up PM, but there was a lot of influence for the character in that game to 64. Terrible amounts of range, risky recovery, moves with a lot of end lag, you get it. Now Ness in Brawl got some improvements he desperately needed compared to these past iterations. Actually having a safer recovery that can kill again, thank God, and having aerials that are a lot safer. But the clear negatives again are, like I stated earlier, is the bugs that exist for his smash attacks not getting stronger when charged, and obviously the infamous grab release jank that Ness is going to absolutely hate. But many of Ness's problems, they tried to fix him, like his KO power, but it's still not good enough. His recovery is still really risky. But it should be noted that Brawl did try improving the character, which is why he is seen as a mid to low tier character. Now Smash 4 Ness had ups and downs. It's mainly because of the flaws of the previous iterations of the character still being there. They did make clear improvements to his combo game and actually making moves have significantly improved end lag. Many people speculate that he was actually secretly a lot better, but I wouldn't sleep on the Smash 4 iteration as it did inspire a lot of the aspects of the Ultimate iteration. He has improved well in tournament even though he's maybe not got the best tier list placement. Now the best version of Ness was the Ultimate iteration, where he was finally able to hit a stride in the meta and have a decent presence. He's a more realized version of the character, especially compared to Smash 4, with his magnet actually having a hitbox and helping his combo game immensely. And this was his speedier moveset. He's technically lower than the Smash 4 iteration, I guess, but it should be noted that Ness was significantly improved. The main thing holding him back was still having the trademark flaws for the character, but the thing is, Ness is actually alleviated by actually being able to have a stronger recovery. But the main negative for the character is he's existing in an engine where it's just way more competitive, and a lot of his flaws are beginning to hold him back. While Ness could still have room to grow in the future, I think he did develop correctly over time. It just took him multiple games to totally realize his potential. But I still feel like Ness could be better in a future Smash game. I would like to see that. Alright you guys, that is the video. Thank you guys for watching. There's a Patreon down below if you guys like the content. Seriously, you guys are the best. Instagram down below, Discord down below. Take care. Peace.